He walked into the room expecting nothing more than stares. To them, he was still the quiet outcast, the one they had mocked for being different. His worn shoes and simple clothes only fed their laughter. But what they didn't know was that beneath the silence lay a truth powerful enough to shatter every arrogant smile in that hall. One revelation would flip the night upside down, forcing his classmates to confront the very prejudice they thought they could hide. And when the truth came out, no one was ready for the weight of what it exposed. David Miller lived a life most people overlooked. At 26, he carried himself quietly, blending into the background whether at work or in the streets of his old neighborhood. To his classmates, he was still the boy they once called strange, the one who never fought back, never joined the crowd, never belonged. What they didn't see were the years that shaped him after leaving those halls. Nights spent buried in code, days spent working jobs that left his hands blistered, and moments of doubt he turned into fuel. On the surface, he looked the same, worn sneakers, a faded jacket, the same calm gaze. But beneath that silence, David carried something no one expected. When the reunion invitation slipped through his door, it wasn't just a reminder of the past. It was a stage waiting for truth. A truth powerful enough to expose not just their cruelty, but the system that had always tried to keep him small. The banquet hall smelled of lemon polish and old money. Chandeliers cast a golden light over white tablecloths, and laughter echoed off the high ceilings. David Miller stepped in quietly, his sneakers brushing against the polished floor. Heads turned, then turned again, as if confirming what they saw. Some smirked. Others whispered behind half-raised glasses. To them, he was still the same boy, silent, awkward, forgettable. The evening began with a slideshow of old class photos. Smiling faces and blazers, team trophies, staged moments of privilege. When David's picture should have appeared, the screen flickered gray. Photo not provided. A ripple of laughter followed, the kind that stings without needing words. The host, Tyler Ward, chuckled into the microphone. Guess some people's stories just don't upload. The crowd erupted, and David felt every eye pressed down on him. He stayed calm. His hands folded neatly on the table, his gaze steady. Yet the mockery carried, spilling across the room in whispers meant to be heard. I heard he's still stuck at his aunt's place. Probably stocking shelves somewhere. Crazy how some people peak in high school. Each comment layered another weight, but David didn't flinch. The awards followed. Paper certificates dressed up as jokes. Best glow up. Most likely to own a yacht. Biggest boss energy. The laughter rose and fell like a wave, and every joke built toward the inevitable. Finally, Tyler pulled out one last envelope, grinning wide. And this one's special, he said, pausing for effect. Honorable mention, most likely to still be different. David Miller, come on up. The spotlight found him. Chairs shifted, glasses clinked, a cough broke the silence. David rose slowly, his sneakers scraping the floor. He walked toward the stage, every step measured, every heartbeat steady. He reached the mic, gave the smallest nod, and said only one word. Thanks. Then he sat back down. The crowd laughed, but softer now. Uneasy. His composure unsettled them. They expected anger or shame or retreat. Instead, they got silence, a silence that made their own cruelty echo louder. The night moved on. Music thumped from rented speakers. Champagne fizzed in tall glasses. Yet cracks showed. At the bar, Chase fumbled with his credit card, the machine flashing. Declined. He tried again, jaw tight, as whispers carried. Didn't his app collapse? Investors bailed fast. Brooke sipped champagne too quickly, her smile brittle. Tyler's jokes fell flat, his charm unraveling. David watched it all from his corner. Calm. Observant. A storm building behind his quiet eyes. They thought he was invisible. They thought he was still beneath them. But the truth was waiting, coiled and sharp, ready to strike. Then came the moment. Tyler shuffled his cue cards, preparing to announce the night's sponsor. Let's give a shout out to the people who made this possible, he said, raising his voice. But when he looked down, the card was blank. Confused, he forced a smile. Well, they've asked to remain anonymous. But hey, round of applause anyway. Polite claps filled the hall. No one suspected. Not yet. David pushed back his chair. The sound of wood against tile cut sharper than the music. Heads turned as he walked toward the stage. Each step drew the air tighter, the laughter thinner. Tyler's grin faltered, unease creeping into his voice. David? You, want to say something? David didn't answer right away. He adjusted his sleeve, steady, unhurried. He reached the mic and let the silence stretch until it became unbearable. The room leaned in, waiting. Something was coming, though none of them knew what. And then, with a calm that chilled more than any anger, he began to speak. The microphone felt cold under David's hand, but his voice carried steady. I want to thank our sponsor tonight, he said, his eyes sweeping the room. Summit Gatherings. Which, in case you're wondering, is me. A ripple of confusion spread across the hall. A half-laugh escaped someone near the back, then died quickly. Tyler shifted behind him, frowning. Wait, what? He muttered into the mic, but David kept going. He reached into his pocket, tapped his phone once. The projector behind him blinked, the slideshow vanishing into black. Then headlines appeared, one after another, stark and undeniable. Miller Technologies raises $40 million in Series B funding. The new face of AI infrastructure. Forbes 30 under 30, David Miller. The crowd gasped. Fingers flew to phones, screens glowing blue across the tables as classmates scrambled to confirm what their eyes refused to believe. The silence that followed wasn't the hush of mockery anymore. It was heavy, sharp, suffocating. David let it sit before he spoke again. You laughed at me for being different, he said, his voice low but clear. You called me weird. You told me I wouldn't last. But what you called weakness was the reason I learned to stand alone. And while you mocked, I built. While you doubted, I created. Chase stared at the floor, his jaw clenched. Brooke's glass trembled in her hand. Tyler gripped the cue cards as if they could save him from the unraveling silence. David's words cut deeper. And tonight, you sit in a hall I paid for. Eating food I funded. Toasting under lights I turned on. The truth rippled like a storm breaking open. Shame spread across faces that once shone with arrogance. The laughter that had filled the night turned into tight lips and lowered eyes. David's gaze swept the room again, calm but unyielding. This isn't about money. Or recognition. It's about the truth. You wanted me here to be your punchline. But I'm not your joke. I am the proof of everything you refuse to see. The air in the hall grew heavier with every word. Tyler's confident grin collapsed. Brooke set her glass down too hard, champagne spilling across the tablecloth. Whispers darted like sparks. It's real. Check Google. He owns it all. And in that moment, David felt the years of silence, of being overlooked, of carrying the weight of their prejudice, transform into something else. Not anger. Not revenge. Power. He paused, letting the weight settle. Every face was caught in the projector's glow, frozen mid-expression. And then he spoke the line that shattered whatever pride they had left. You tried to bury me. But you didn't know I was a seed. The words echoed in the hall, sharp as glass. For a moment, no one breathed. The chandeliers hummed. The projector fan whirred. And all around him, the same classmates who once laughed at his silence now sat drowning in their own. David stepped back from the mic, leaving the truth hanging heavy in the air. The hall had become a mirror, and none of them liked what they saw. David stepped down from the stage. The weight of silence followed him, pressing on every corner of the hall. No one laughed now. No one dared. The same mouths that once called him weird and different stayed shut, their champagne glasses trembling in their hands. He didn't need to say more. His truth had already done the work. With steady strides, David walked toward the exit. The air outside was cool, the city lights sharp against the night sky. For the first time, he felt free of the shadows cast by their judgment. The label of loser, outcast, failure, it no longer belonged to him. It never had. But the story wasn't just about David. His classmates' shame was only a small piece of a much larger truth. What happened in that hall was a reflection of something deeper, something that reaches far beyond reunions and school memories. It was about the way society measures worth, the way prejudice blinds people to potential, the way racism hides behind laughter and jokes until it festers into cruelty. David's story was proof of resilience, yes, but it was also proof of how much energy is wasted forcing people of color to constantly prove they belong. He should not have needed millions of dollars or magazine covers to earn respect. His humanity should have been enough. And that's the weight of this story. Because for every David who gets the chance to rise, there are countless others whose brilliance is crushed before it ever sees light. Young men and women labeled different, before they've even had a chance to show their strength. Workers passed over for promotions because of their skin. Students mocked until their confidence shatters. Families carrying the burden of silence because speaking up feels dangerous. David's victory exposes the injustice. His calm triumph shows what happens when truth can no longer be buried. But it also asks a question that cannot be ignored. Why does someone have to achieve extraordinary success just to be treated with basic respect? The answer lies not in his classmates' shame, but in the mirror each of us must face. The systems that humiliate, the voices that mock, the silence that allows it all to happen, these are not relics of the past. They are alive, present, and powerful. Unless confronted, they will keep writing the same story again and again. David walked away from that hall with his head high, his voice steady, his truth unshaken. But the echo of that night lingers, a reminder that arrogance collapses when exposed to reality, and that dignity cannot be stripped from those who refuse to surrender it. So now the question turns to us. How many more Davids will it take before we learn? How many lives must be tested, mocked, or diminished before respect is given freely, without condition? This is more than one man's story. It is a reflection of a world still wrestling with the weight of its own prejudice. The challenge is clear. Will we keep repeating the same patterns, or will we finally break them? The choice is ours.